Hey everyone, welcome to back to another video. I'm Elephant and this is my mom, Elephant. Today we're going to how to paint the fall trees. Let's get started! Let's get started!
Okay, so a few weeks ago I did a tutorial on simple watercolor trees for beginners, and a lot of people requested some fall autumn trees, so that is what we're going to be doing today. We're going to be painting a bunch of different trees, so let's get to it. Okay, so I'm just going to be painting in my Etcher Lab cold press watercolor sketchbook. I have my Winsor Newton Professional Watercolors, my Emma Lefebvre Craft Mo brush in a size 12 round, and I'm probably going to get out my size 6 as well as my size 2, which is somewhere. It's right here. Okay, so if you refer back to that video, I talked about how trees are different shapes. We have some trees that are more like cones, trees that are like triangles, trees that are like ovals. So we're going to be going with that principle of thought today. So I want you to think of shapes. And one of the most important things I believe when doing watercolor trees is leaving those bits of white space between the leaves so you can do some branches to make them look a little bit more realistic. So we're going to be doing some autumn trees today. So that means we're going to be using some oranges, yellows, reds, browns, all that fun stuff. So I'm just going to grab whatever color is in here, a light wash of it. And we're going to start up here and we're going to do more of like a circle kind of tree. And all you're going to do is you're just going to dab your color like this. See that those little white spaces I'm leaving in between? Okay, we don't want to make it too dense because we're going to want to draw or paint little branches in between later. Okay, so we're doing just kind of like almost like a circle tree. And we're just starting with a light wash of like this orangish yellow. Okay, and what also is going to make it look a bit more realistic is adding the shadows. So there's a lot of white space in here, so I'm just going to move some of it, just remove some of it like that. I'm going to grab a bit more orange, maybe a bit of red just to make it a bit darker. I have this color called Brown Matter that's really pretty, and I'm just going to start dropping it in one side of the tree like that, just to give it a little bit more depth. All right, then I'm going to take my size 6, or no, we're going to take my size 2, and I'm going to do the stem, the trunk. I'm like so used to drawing leaves and flowers, I can't even think. Okay, and one thing that also makes it look a bit more real is the tree is usually really full on top. I find when we do smaller trunks, it just looks a bit more real. If you do a big, thick trunk, it just looks a little odd. Okay, so I'm going to start off with this small little trunk here, like that. And then I'm going to do some branches kind of coming off, like that, and meeting the tree like this. Okay? Now I'm going to go in a little bit after and do some more of the branches. Sorry, I can't really speak today. I'll do maybe a couple, okay? Because we're going to get a lot of color bleeds, which isn't a bad thing. But you do want some sharper, and you're just going to do little branches in between, okay? And then usually with my trees, what I like to do is I'll wash and dry off my brush, and then I just like blend out the bottom, like so. Okay, it looks like it's on the ground somewhere. Okay? And we're going to leave it like that for now. Actually, I'm lying. I'm going to take a darker brown color, and I'm just going to go up one side of the tree just to create a bit more shadow. Like that. Okay? All right, so there is our first tree. Now let's do more like a yellow birch tree. And I find birch trees sometimes have like 2 trunks coming off of one, and then the leaves, as they start to turn yellow, they get really sparse all over, okay? So I want you to think kind of like a long oval shape, but we're going to make them a bit more sparse. So I'm just going to grab some cadmium yellow, and I'm going to start off here Then I'm just gonna jump over here, jump over here. Okay, it's not like a full shape. Okay, we're gonna be doing a lot of branches on this one. Maybe you can have a fuller part over here, but this is gonna be a longer tree. Taller, longer, you know what I mean. Today I actually have a pretty bad headache as I'm doing this, so if I'm not making sense, that is why. But I have to work today. I gotta get this done. So I do apologize. Okay, so see how it's kind of sparse, but you can see kind of that oval shape, right? Now I'm gonna grab my darker color so we can just use that, or even yellow ochre if we need to. And I'm just gonna tap it in the sections on the one side. We can even grab some brown, some burnt umber, and tap a little bit more in, like this. Okay, and now we are going to do the tree trunks. Okay, so this one is actually fun because I like doing birch tree trunks. So you're gonna take a light wash of black, like a light wash, just water it down. And I'm gonna do 2 trunks. So I'm gonna start here, and I'm going to do one kind of line and then another one kind of coming off of it. This one could be a little bit thinner, like that. Okay, and while it's still wet, I'm just going to blend out the bottom like that. And then we want to continue these trunks up the middle of the tree, at least the bigger parts, right? And then it will start to get a little bit thinner. This one's curving a little bit, like that. Okay, and then while those are still wet, I'm going to take a little bit more black, just a little bit, and I'm going to go down one side of the tree trunk, like that. Okay, and you can do little lines or dots or whatever you need to. Like so. And then from here, you're just going to create some more branches coming off of these first initial tree trunks. So you're just going to do smaller branches. You can have, and then you can create some more and then add some more leaves too if you want. Okay, I'm going to have some coming up here. Like, don't feel like because you added leaves beforehand that it has to be done. You can always come back and add more. Just using the tip of my brush. Going in between those little white spaces. You can even switch to your smaller brush. If it's a little bit easier. Okay, and then like I said, just grab some more of your color if you want to add some more leaves. You can add some smaller, more detailed ones too if you like. If it just feels a little bare in some areas, and play around, okay? Okay, I'm going to grab my yellow ochre, dab it in there too. And then a little bit more of my burnt umber, like so. Okay. Like that. And then if you want to, I'm going to add a little bit more darkness to the tree trunk. Just going to go on the one side. And now this is dry. So we're getting sharper lines, and then you can just start doing like the little birch tree kind of lines on it. A little bit more texture. You can do a bit more darker branches if you like. Just add some more in there. like so. There's some leaves falling off of this one. You can have some kind of coming down. Whatever you like. It's like they're falling off. Okay. So there is our birch tree. Okay, and now we're going to do another one. We're going to go a bit more red, and we're going to go for a bit more of a cone shape. So, and I feel like this one could use a little bit more darkness and detail. You can always go back to your trees and just add a little bit more if you want to. Like a little bit more shadow after it dries, texture. Okay, you can even just like break up the bristles in your brush. Like there's no right or wrong way to do this necessarily. Just whatever feels good to you. And also just experiment. Okay, so there we go. Okay, let's do more of like cone shaped trees. So I'm going to pick some red for this. Some Winsor red. And I'm just going to start off by doing same little dabbing motions. My brush is kind of like on an angle. And I'm thinking of a cone shape. Like so. Again, leaving those white spaces. This is a pretty bright red tree. Okay, now I'm going to grab a darker red. I have this like pearly maroon color. Again, just going to bring it on the side here. I feel like it's too coney, so I'm just going to try and break it up just a little bit, like that. Nice bright red tree. And we're going to do our trunk. Again, make it nice and thin but long maybe. Washing off my brush. Just kind of blending it out. Wash it off, blend it out. Go back and get more color. I'm going to have a branch come from down here. Going a little bit darker on this side. I'm just going to connect those branches. In those little white spaces. Like that. Grab a little bit darker brown if you like. Add a little bit of texture to your tree. And there you go. Okay, let's do a wider tree that's starting to turn. It's green and it's going to start turning kind of yellow. So I'm going to grab some olive green because I feel like that's a good transition green. It almost is kind of on the yellow side. And we're going to think of something that's a little bit wider. So I'm just going to go, again, tapping, white space. I'm going to grab some yellow ochre. Okay, like it's just starting to turn. A little bit more yellow in there. Closer to the top, I'd say. Grab a bit more green. I'm going to even grab a little bit of darker green. Like so. Maybe a little bit of brown. Mix it with your yellow. We're just tapping away. I think I want a little bit more yellow ochre in there. Do some smaller little dots. Like so. Okay. Now, again, I'm going to grab my size 2. Okay, we're going to do a thicker trunk for this one. Okay. So this one's going to have a big, thick trunk like this. A little bit shorter. fill it in with your color. It's okay if it bleeds in a little bit. I'm going to wash it off, blend it out. Okay, and then I'm going to grab a bit more. And this is going to have some lower branches. Good little climbing trees. I remember I got stuck in a tree like this. Maybe have a thick one coming out this way too. Yeah, I remember playing hide and go seek when I was a kid. And just hiding in the tree. I could get up, couldn't get down. That was a fun day. Just connecting some tiny little branches throughout. All of those little white spaces. Like that. And then I'm going to go back in with a little bit darker brown. The darker brown I'm using is sepia. I always thought it was sepia. People say it's sepia, but that sounds weird to me, but that's fine. Okay, and there we go. And if you want to add a little bit more darkness, like you can just, because there would be shadow, maybe a little bit more darkness down here at the base. Because this tree hasn't completely turned yet. And then around the side of it, just to give it a little bit more depth, like that. Okay, now we're gonna do an evergreen tree actually. Now this isn't too much of a fall tree, but I like doing them, and it's gonna be a bit different than I usually do them. So I'm gonna grab my size 6. This is gonna be our last tree. We're gonna do 2 of them. I'm gonna start off with, let's start off with some olive green. And I'm gonna do a long line like this, and we'll do another one like this. Okay, and this one, we're just going to be going back and forth with these kind of like uneven shapes, okay? We're not doing actual like little bristles or anything like that. Or bristles, little like pine needles or anything. They're a bit clumpier, and I don't want it to be symmetrical, okay? So I don't want it to be like branch here, branch there, branch here, branch there. You're going to kind of want to go on a diagonal. Some are going to be lower than others. Like that, some shorter, some longer. Like so. Maybe have some weird ones sticking up at the top like that. And I know evergreen trees don't really turn. They're not like really fallish, but they're out there at this time of year too. I just thought we'd do them a different way than I usually do them. Okay, so again, I'm just using the side of my brush and just kind of tapping back and forth. And my biggest tip is just don't make it symmetrical, okay? And these ones are not going to go all the way to the ground. Okay, now I'm going to grab a little bit more darker green, and I'm just going to go under, a little bit too much, underneath those parts that are sticking out and towards the center kind of. You're just tapping the darker color in. Like so. Okay, and then finally I'm going to take my brown, my burnt umber, and these ones are going to have longer tree trunks. That and like that. And if you want to add a little bit of brown going up the center, you can. Again, washing off my brush, drying it, and just blending it out. Like so. A little bit of darkness on the one side. Like that. And there are our evergreen trees. Again, you can still add a little bit more darkness if you want to. Oops, there's a bit too much water there. There we go. Especially towards the bottom. There. Okay. And I feel like we could add a little bit, maybe like a small one here. Let's just do a tiny one just for fun because there's a spot there. I'm gonna grab some yellow. We're just gonna do a tiny one with our size 2 brush. Maybe like a forsythia bush, you know those? So I'm just taking some cadmium yellow. Again, my brush is on an angle. I just keep adding more water so I can keep it going. It doesn't have to be necessarily a shape here. Okay, I'm going to grab a little bit of that darker yellow, kind of brownish color. Just tap it in some parts there. Get our burnt umber and do a little trunk like this. And just connect it through. And that's it. Tiny little tree. I feel like I could do one last one. I actually really enjoy painting trees. I'm gonna do one last one. One kind of a long one. I don't know what kind of trees these are. Again, another kind of yellowish, greenish one that's turning. So I'm gonna take my cadmium yellow, and this one is gonna be tall like this. And we're just gonna have our brush kind of upside down. You're just gonna be having the bristles kind of point up. Bristles. I don't know why I'm calling them bristles. The bristles are on my brush. The leaves, or you know, whatever they're called. Again, headache. Not thinking clearly. Okay, but they're pointing up, and I'm just doing these like really loose kind of sketchy motions. Again, leaving a little bit of white. I'm gonna grab my green. I'm gonna tap it through. Again, like it's turning. Maybe a bit more green on one side. And then our trunk. Keep wanting to call it a stem. Like so. Maybe a couple branches going like that. You're gonna have a couple going through, not too much for this one. Blend it out. A little bit more darkness to the one side. Keeps it from looking flat. And there you go. Okay, I think, I keep looking at it and I'm like, we could have some more of this in there. I'm just adding a little bit darker green towards the base for a bit more shadow. Okay, I feel like that's a little bit better. Okay, now I think we're done. So those are some ways you can do trees. And then if you wanted to after, you can always take your brush, break up the bristles, do some leaves that have fallen on the ground. Okay, just breaking up those bristles. Like there's some leaves. And if you're ever worried about damaging your brush, you're not going to damage your brush. Just make sure once you are done, wet it, just kind of roll it on your paper towel and reshape the bristles, and then you're done. And there you go. There are some fall or autumn trees. Thank you guys so much for watching my video. I really hope you liked it and I hope you learned something. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel and follow me on Instagram and Facebook for even more. Have a good day, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks for your help.
Mom,
Yeah?
I want to paint.
You want to paint?